Hey everyone, welcome to another topic for organization and management concepts. And today's video, we're going to talk about important managerial issues. So there's a myth that says globalization is a trend that's come and gone. However, the reality is that in 2017, more than 85% of the 176 countries in the International Monetary Fund increased their global exports, while anti-globalization sentiment also has increased. So globalization is not disappearing anytime soon. It remains an important issue that organizational leaders must recognize and manage. Today's managers are concerned with such integrative management issues as diversity, globalization and ethics, and social responsibility throughout many aspects of what they do and how they manage. So by the end of this video, you will be able to explain globalization and its impact on organizations, describe what managers need to know about managing in global organizations, discuss how society's expectations are influencing managers and organizations, discuss the factors that lead to ethical and unethical behavior in organizations. So for years, India was the cashew capital of the world. Thousands of Indians were employed in the highly labor-intensive industry, prompting the Indian government to enact specific labor laws and regulations to protect them. So by the 1990s, India was the king of cashews as it accounted for a solid 80% of the global cashew market. However, almost 2,000 miles away, Vietnamese cashew processors were investing in automated equipment and becoming much more efficient than those labor-intensive Indian processors, thus creating a significant competitive threat to India's market domination. Ironically, the laws intended to protect Indian workers most likely ended up harming them as cashew processing switched to the more efficient Vietnamese businesses. Even in something as seemingly simple as cashew processing, the forces and impacts of globalization don't and won't stay the same. So now, much of the cashew processing appears to be shifting to countries in Africa. And that's the reality and challenge of today's global environment where your product, your competition, and even your workforce can be found anywhere and at any time. Although the world is still a global village, how managers do business in that global village is changing. So to be effective in this boundaryless world, managers need to adapt to this changed environment as well as continue to foster an understanding of cultures, systems, and techniques that are different from their own. And what's more, even if you don't ever anticipate working internationally, you need to learn all you can about globalization so you can recognize opportunities and threats that have the potential to impact your career. That said, management is no longer constrained by national borders because major events such as catastrophic natural disasters and the global economic meltdown of the past few years have created challenges for managers doing business globally. For example, BMW, a German-owned firm, builds cars in South Carolina in the US, and also McDonald's, a US company, sells hamburgers in China. So the world has become a global village, a boundaryless world where goods and services are produced and marketed worldwide. So to be effective in this boundaryless world, managers need to adapt. Now, what does it mean to be global? Organizations are considered global if they exchange goods and services with consumers in other countries, Capital globalization is the most common approach to being global. Many organizations are considered global because they use managerial and technical employee talent from other countries. So one factor that affects talent globalization is immigration laws and regulations. Managers must be alert to changes in those laws. An organization can be considered global if it uses financial sources and resources outside its home country, which is known as financial globalization. As might be expected, the global economic slowdown severely affected the availability of financial resources globally. How do organizations go global? When organizations go global, they often use different approaches as shown here on this figure. So managers who want to enter global market with minimal investment usually start with global sourcing, also called as global outsourcing, which means purchasing materials or labors from the cheapest source in order to maintain a competitive edge. So for instance, Massachusetts General Hospital uses radiologists in India to interpret CT scans. Also, moving beyond global sourcing involves more investment and risk for organization. Exporting and importing entail less investment and risk than other steps in globalization. So what do we mean by exporting? So exporting an organization's products involves making products domestically and selling them abroad, while importing involves acquiring products made abroad and selling them domestically. Managers may also choose licensing or franchising to further their global penetration. Both licensing and franchising involve one organization giving another organization the right to use its brand name, technology, or product specifications in return for a lump sum payment or a fee that is usually based on sales. To give you a general idea about licensing, this is most often used by manufacturing organizations that make or sell another company's products. As an example, Anheuser-Busch licenses the right to brew and market Budweiser beer to foreign brewers such as Labatt in Canada and Kirin in Japan. And franchising is primarily used by service organizations that want to use another company's name and operating methods such as KFC and Dunkin' Donuts. So with experience in international markets, managers may next make a move, direct investment through a global strategic alliance, which is a partnership between an organization and a foreign company partner created to share resources and knowledge in developing new products or building production facilities. Honda Motors and General Electric, for example, teamed up to produce a new jet engine. And a joint venture is a type of strategic alliance in which the partners form a separate, independent organization for a business purpose. So for example, Hewlett-Packard or HP has initiated the joint ventures with various global suppliers to develop different components for its computer equipment. And lastly, managers may also directly invest in a foreign country by setting up a foreign subsidiary as a separate and independent facility or office. So an example, United Plastics Group built 3 injection molding facilities in China to become a global supplier to its global accounts. Multinational companies or MNCs are any type of international company that maintains operations in multiple countries. So companies such as Ford and Sony are examples. There are 3 types of MNC or multinational corporation. One is multi-domestic corporation. Management and other decisions are decentralized to the local country in which it is operating. This relies on local employees to manage the business, tailor strategies to each country's unique characteristics, and is used by many consumer product companies. Another type of MNC is a transnational or borderless organization. This is a type of MNC where artificial geographical boundaries are eliminated. Country of origin or where business is conducted becomes irrelevant. This increases efficiency and effectiveness in a competitive global marketplace. And the last type would be global corporation. This is a type of MNC in which management and other decisions are centralized in the home country. World market is treated as an integrated whole, that the focus is on control and global efficiency. What do managers need to know about managing in a global organization? So, a global world presents cultural challenges for managers, especially in the United States managers who hold a parochial view of the business world. So, parochialism is a narrow focus in which managers see things only through their own eyes and from their own perspectives. So, not recognizing the countries have different values, morals, customs, political and economic systems and laws, which can affect how a business is managed. So the most important differences for managers to understand relate to a country's social context or culture. So for example, status is perceived differently in different countries. So an example, in France, status is often the result of factors important to organization, such as seniority, education, and the like. In the United States, status is more a function of what individuals have accomplished personally. Geert Hofstede's widely referenced framework on cultural variations has provided insight into much of what we know about cultural differences among countries. A more recent research program called Global Leadership and Organizational Behavior Effectiveness, or GLOBE, continues the ongoing cross-cultural investigation of leadership and national culture. GLOBE's findings both extend Hofstede's research and confirm the validity of his original dimensions. The GLOBE research team, using data from more than 17,000 managers in 62 societies around the world, has identified 9 dimensions in which national cultures differ. Assertiveness is the extent to which a society encourages people to be tough, confrontational, assertive, and competitive versus modest and tender. So the United States ranks high on this category or on this dimension, and Egypt ranks moderate, and Sweden ranks low. So here, Philippines ranks moderate. Future orientation indicates the extent to which a society encourages and rewards future-oriented behavior, such as planning, investing in the future, and delaying gratification. Gender differentiation captures the extent to which a society maximizes gender role differences. Uncertainty avoidance is a society's reliance on social norms and procedures to alleviate the unpredictability of future events. Power distance is the degree to which the members of a society expect power to be unequally distributed. Individualism and collectivism is the degree to which individuals are encouraged to integrate into groups within organizations and society. In-group collectivism encompasses the extent to which members of a society take pride in their membership, and small groups such as their family and circle of close friends and the organizations by which they are employed. Performance orientation refers to the degree to which society encourages and rewards group members for performance improvement and excellence. Humane orientation is the degree to which a society encourages and rewards individuals for being fair, altruistic, generous, caring, and kind to others. The Globe study confirms that Hofstede's original dimensions are still valid and has added some additional dimensions. It also provides us with an update measure of where countries rate on each dimension. And also, we can expect future cross-cultural studies of human behavior to increasingly use the Globe dimensions to assess differences between countries. What does society expect from organizations and managers? So, Tom's Shoes has a unique idea to promote corporate social responsibility. So, for each pair of shoes it sells, it donates a pair to a child in need. Founded by Blake McCoskey, who experienced firsthand the injuries that children suffer when they have no shoes. So the business concept is one of mixing charity with commerce. For Blake McCoskey, the ability for Tom's to produce a profit is just as important as his commitment to social responsibility. The question for Tom's concerns their ability to stay profitable and still be socially responsible. Many managers believe that society expects organizations and managers to be responsible and ethical. However, judging from recent financial scandals at Enron, Bernard Madoff Investment Securities, Health South, and others, managers don't always act responsibly or ethically. One company that does focus on being responsible and ethical and gives back is Tom's Shoes. The company follows a one-for-one business model, donating a pair of shoes for every pair it sells. To date, Tom's has donated 20 million pairs of shoes to charity. How can organizations demonstrate socially responsible actions? So, social responsibility, also known as corporate social responsibility or CSR, refers to a business's intention beyond its legal and economic obligations to do the right things and act in ways that are good for society. Social responsibility adds an ethical imperative to those that can make society better and to avoid those things that could make it worse. This definition assumes that a business 1. Obeys the law, 2. Pursues economic interest, and 3. Views a business as a moral agent. Social obligation occurs when a firm engages in social actions because of its obligation to meet certain economic and legal responsibilities. It does the minimum that the law requires and only pursues social goals to the extent that they contribute to its economic goals. And lastly, the social responsiveness is characteristic of the business firm that engages in social actions in response to a popular social need. So managers in these companies are guided by social norms and values and make practical, market-oriented decisions about their actions. Should organizations be socially involved? The importance of corporate social responsibility surfaced in the 1960s when social activists questioned the singular economic objective of business. So even today, good arguments can be made for and against businesses being socially responsible. As shown here on this figure, the arguments for and against social responsibility. Managers regularly confront decisions that have a dimension of social responsibility, such as philanthropy, pricing, employee relations, resource conservation, product quality, and doing business in countries with oppressive governments. So, would an organization's view on social responsibility be important to you in deciding whether to work there? Numerous studies have examined this issue, and though most found a small positive relationship, no generalizable conclusions can be made because these studies have shown that the relationship is affected by various contextual factors such as firm size, industry, economic conditions, and regulatory environment. Other researchers have questioned causation. If a study showed that social involvement and economic performance were positively related, this didn't necessarily mean that social involvement caused higher economic performance. It could simply mean that high profits afforded companies the luxury of being socially involved. Another study found that if the flawed empirical analysis of these studies were corrected, social responsibility had a neutral impact on a company's financial performance. Another found that participating in social issues not related to the organization's primary stakeholders had a negative effect on shareholder value. Despite all these concerns, after reanalyzing several studies, other researchers have concluded that managers can afford to be and should be socially responsible. What is sustainability and why is it important? So, considering its size, Walmart is probably the last company that you'd think about in a section describing sustainability. However, the retailer is committed to improving its sustainability efforts, and this corporate action affirms that sustainability is a mainstream issue for managers. So many companies have announced plans to move to more environmentally sustainable products and services, including Walmart's plan to use renewable energy in 26% of its locations worldwide. An evaluation of $200 billion worth of goods sold for sustainability performance and divert 77% of global waste from landfills. So sustainability has become a mainstream issue for managers, and managing in a sustainable way includes widening corporate responsibility, not only to managing in an efficient and effective way, but also to responding strategically to a wide range of environmental and societal challenges. From a business perspective, sustainability has been defined as a company's ability to achieve its business goals and increase long-term shareholder value by integrating economic, environmental, and social opportunities into its business strategies. The idea of practicing sustainability affects many aspects of business, from the creation of products and services to their use and subsequent disposal by consumers. So following sustainability practices is one way in which organizations can show their commitment to being responsible, and in today's world, where many individuals have diminishing respect for businesses, few organizations can afford the bad press or potential economic ramifications of being seen as socially irresponsible. What factors determine ethical and unethical behaviors? So the term ethics refers to the principles, values, and beliefs that define what is right and wrong behavior, or commonly refers to a set of rules or principles that defines right and wrong conduct. So while most people recognize that something illegal is also unethical, what about questionable legal areas or strict organizational policies? Suppose you managed an employee who worked all weekend on a rush project. You told the employee to take 2 days off sometime later and mark the days as sick days because your company had a clear policy that overtime would not be compensated for any reason. Would that be wrong? So as a manager, how will you handle such situations? To better understand what's involved in managerial ethics, let's look at 3 different perspectives on how managers make ethical decisions. So one view would be the utilitarian view of ethics that says that ethical decisions are made solely on the basis of their outcomes or consequences. The goal of utilitarianism is to provide the greatest good for the greatest number of people. In the rights view of ethics, individuals are concerned with respecting and protecting individual liberties and privileges such as the right of free consent, the right to privacy, and the right of free speech. Under this view, making ethical decisions is simple because the goal is to avoid interfering with the rights of others who might be affected by the decision. And lastly, under the theory of justice view of ethics, an individual is equitable, fair, and impartial in making decisions. So for instance, such a manager would pay individuals of similar skills, performance, or responsibility level the same wage and wouldn't base that decision on gender, personality, or favoritism. Whether a manager or employee acts ethically or unethically depends on several factors. One is through morality, values, experience, the organization's culture, ethical issue being faced. And ambiguity over what is ethical can be a problem for managers. For example, how would you respond in the following situation? So someone in your class stole, for example, the final exam and is selling a copy of 1,000 pesos each. You need to do well on the exam or risk failing the course. So you suspect that some classmates have bought copies, which could affect any result because your professor grades on a curve. Do you buy a copy because you fear that without it you'll be at disadvantage? Or do you refuse to buy a copy and try your best? Or do you report your knowledge to the instructor? Managers can do a number of things if they are serious about encouraging ethical behavior. Hire employees with ethical standards, establish codes of ethics, lead by example, link job goals and performance appraisal, provide ethics training, and implement protective mechanisms for employees who face ethical dilemmas. So there are three ways in which managers can encourage ethical behavior and create a comprehensive ethics program. Those include establishing a code of ethics, providing ethical leadership, and offering ethics training. So for codes of ethics, this should be specific enough to guide organizational members in what they're supposed to do, yet loose enough to allow for freedom of judgment. The effectiveness of such codes depends heavily on whether management supports them and ingrains them into the corporate culture and on how individuals who break the codes are treated. So if managers considers the codes to be important, regularly reaffirms their content, follow the rules themselves, and publicly reprimands rule breakers, and ethic codes can be strong foundation for an effective corporate ethics program. Of critical importance is ethical leadership, which sets the tone for employee behavior. Managers must be good ethical role models, both in words and, more importantly, in actions, which send even stronger signals to employees. Therefore, if managers take company resources for their personal use, or inflate their expense accounts, or give favored treatment to friends, they imply that such behavior is acceptable from all employees. When an employee does something unethical, managers must punish the offender and make the outcome visible to everyone in the organization. So here's a list or suggestions for being an ethical leader. One is be a good role model by being ethical and honest. Tell the truth always. Don't hide or manipulate information. Be willing to admit your failures. Share your personal values by regularly communicating them to the employees. Stress the organization's or team's important shared values and use the reward system to hold everyone accountable to the values. Remember, what you do is far more important than what you say in getting employees to act ethically. An increasing number of organizations are setting up seminars, workshops, and ethics training programs to encourage ethical behavior. However, such training raises the question, can ethics be taught? So critics maintain that people establish their individual value systems when they are young, so later training is pointless. However, proponents note studies that shows that it's never too late to learn values, and teaching ethical problem solving increases 1. Instances of better ethical behaviors and individuals' level of moral development, and lastly, awareness of ethical issues in business. And that's the end of chapter 3, which is important managerial issues. And before we end this video, let's have a quick recap on what we have discussed today. So first, we have explained the globalization and its impact on organizations. Again, organizations are considered global if they exchange goods and services with consumers in other countries, or if they use managerial and technical employee talent from other countries, or if they use financial sources and resources outside their home country. Businesses going global are usually referred to as multinational corporations or MNCs, and as a MNC, they may operate as multi-domestic corporation, a global corporation, or a transnational or borderless organization. So when a business goes global, it may start with global sourcing, move to exporting or importing, use licensing or franchising, pursue a global strategic alliance, or set up a foreign subsidiary. We also described what managers need to know about managing in global organization. So in doing business globally, managers need to be aware of different laws, economic systems, and as well as political views on issues such as immigration and free trade. But the biggest challenge is understanding the different country cultures. Two cross-cultural frameworks that managers can use are Hofstede's and Globe. Also, we have discussed how society expectations are influencing managers and organizations. So society expects organizations and managers to be responsible and ethical. An organization's social involvement can be from the perspective of social obligation, social responsiveness, or social responsibility. After much analysis, researchers have concluded that managers can afford to be socially responsible, and sustainability has become an important societal issue for managers and organizations. And lastly, we have discussed the factors that lead to ethical and unethical behavior in organizations. Ethics can be viewed from the utilitarian view, the rights view, and the theory of justice view. Whether a manager acts ethically or unethically depends on his or her morality, values, personality, and experiences, the organization's culture, and the ethical issue being faced. Managers can encourage ethical behavior by hiring employees with high ethical standards, establishing a code of ethics, leading by example, linking job goals and performance appraisal, providing ethics training, and implementing protective mechanisms for employees who face ethical dilemmas. That's the end of this video. See you on the next one.